been transmitted in the illegal bushmeat trade not only endangers our wildlife, but affects our health and may damage our economy. So please, say no to illegal bushmeat. Keep them wild and keep us safe.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And before I take you through to the front pages of the papers, now the duo is complete. Good morning, Evelyn.
Good morning, Femi. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very well.
Yeah.
Very well.
Good morning, people.
Yeah. This day, my first paper that I'm picking up this morning, this day, President Obasanjo not ideal leader to emulate, unfit to speak on good governance. Interesting. Presidency, Obasanjo not ideal leader to emulate, unfit to speak on good governance. That's on the front page of This Day newspaper, with riders accuses his government of brazen illegality, assault on constitution through illegal removal of governance. Says he made poor choices in economic management, which burdened successive governments, and maintains he organized sham elections in 2003, adjudged the worst in nation's history. Okay, you know what they say. He who steers the hornets, next, you expect reactions from the hornets, from the bees as well. So, but these kind of bees now, meaning if you come for us, we will come for you. Since yesterday, the conversation has been on social media, people defending the government and their response, and then people defending President Obasanjo and his PDP government as well. It has been a war of statistics and figures. What was the economy under Obasanjo? What's the economy like here? What's the debt burden? What's all of this and all of that? Somebody that people came for seriously is Mr. Sunday Dare. They camped under his comments to say, this now, but I think the man is doing his job. Exactly. What he has been called, he has been on the sidelines since Buhari left, and then he was called in possibly to reinforce the attack. And, what do we know from this end? It is in the open. And below that, strengthening security operations in Delta. You have the Deputy Governor, Delta State, Sir Monday Onyeme, Governor Sharif Obrewari, that's the Governor of Delta State, Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, and State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Olufemi Abaniwanda, during the inauguration of 31 security Helios patrol pickups donated by the state government yesterday in Asaba. Moving on, governors threatening us over Tinubu's tax reform bills. House members allege who are the governors. I'm not sure Nigerians are ready for these ambiguous insinuations. Oyedele, no region is targeted in tax reform. And LCCI parameters assumptions for 2025 proposed budget over ambitious and fragile. Again, LCCI for 2025 proposed budget over ambitious, fragile, and with a rider linked to the finance minister, Edun Tinubu, working to lift Nigerians out of poverty. I dare ask Mr. Edun, when will that lifting be complete? Because we are well over 1 year into this administration, they are still lifting. Okay, maybe the burden is so large actually, but then they should give us a date, a timeline, at least so that you know that in the first 2 years, maybe 2 million have been brought out of poverty, 1 million have been brought out of poverty with verifiable fact. This is what Nigerians want to see. But that will be all from the front page of This Day.
And from This Day newspaper, we head on to The Punch. The Punch newspaper this morning. Corruption allegations. Presidency attacks OBJ as opposition box ex-president. With the rider, FG says Obasanjo lacks moral grounds to attack Tinubu Opposition insists ex-lawmaker or ex-leader rather right on corruption, bad governance. I take the rider again. FG says Obasanjo lacks moral grounds to attack Tinubu. Opposition insists ex-leader right on corruption, bad governance. Yes, you can see the opposition are, campaigning with the former President Olusegun Obasanjo on a statement about the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Yeah.
And the president is not having it. Of course, they are giving him word for word, aura for aura, as they say.
About my enemy's enemy. In
It's
his
my
eyes,
friend.
is my friend. That's it. You want to know that it's not because most of them like the Obasanjo, or possibly if the Obasanjo gives it to them as well, then the tide might change. But then it is what it is.
And away from that, of course, let's move on to other stories. This morning, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, you can see the president beaming with a smile. Outside is a beautiful wife there, Senator Remi Tinubu, and of course, the president of Brazil and his wife, Lula Silva, and his wife, Janja Lula da Silva. When the president made a visit to Brazil for the G20 Leaders Summit. And people on social media, I was able to browse through social media yesterday, and people, we do not see the welcoming package for Mr. President when he went to Brazil. There is no all those people coming to welcome him at the airport and all of that.
Maybe it wasn't sure.
No, the thing is,
These
it's
are
there
normal
for
proxy.
a G20 Leaders Summit. They're trying to compare it to when Narendra Modi visited Nigeria and the way
We shouldn't be
the
misleading.
entire cabinet of Mr. President, even the minister of the FCT, the whole, they just feel
I think one of the cabinet members, somebody. I know the one.
ceremony we attach to when leaders come into our country. Even when Mr. President travels out and is coming, the old ceremony, people just believe it's not necessary.
it's
He
just
travels, he comes back. Because I actually saw a picture, a photograph, or a video rather, of the president leaving, a particular country, and I still saw the old protocol of line of some of his officials line up to, say, President Baba, you're going back to your country. Do you get? And still, when he came to Nigeria, they still lined up and they're like, welcome back to the country. I mean,
I think it's protocol. It has always been there. It's not just about
but people are.
But I think it
people
should be
really do not
reviewed.
Exactly.
Because the same people that will travel with will come down before you. They will shake hands. They will say, Ranka Dede, all of those things welcome. And when he's going the same thing, these are some of the things that we see. It will be, but it's not. The point I'm making is this particular protocol that we talked about. It's not a Tinubu thing.
Yeah, it has been,
right?
but it seems people really are not having it. But away from that, Ndopo Ayedatila gets certificate of return Wednesday amid protests, and Trump plans to use military for mass deportation. Land takeover, Makinde Adeleke knock Ganduje over threat. And top strip, the Punch newspaper this morning, FG plans fresh 31 trillion naira borrowing. And luggage delay to attract $170, 10,000 naira fines. This is coming from NCAA, luggage delay.
To be given to who? The fine to be paid to who?
This is the first time we're going to
Do
hear.
you know of the luggage or the government?
If there is a delay in your flight, the airline owes you this and that. They have to provide this for you and all of that. If, at the end of the day, the flight was cancelled without proper information on what's happening, then the airline owes you this and that. And not for once. Since the former administration.
Is it being enforced?
Not for once have I really seen that in, implementation. So this, it's a good deal, but then will it be enforced? That's the question. And default, 34 states, FCT shown 363 billion naira UBEC grants. And Senate invites top doctors over strike. That will be all from the Punch newspaper this morning.
Two takes for me before we leave. Senate invite top doctors. Who are top doctors? Because I'm not hearing NMA or MDCAN or resident doctors, top doctors, to speak with the not too top doctors or what? And then things about on the Olaye that you will get certificate of return Wednesday amid protest. What I'd like to ask is protest.
Who are those protesting? Of course, there will be dissented voice. There will be people that are protesting.
That I was voted by. That's where I'm going. That your own party.
That it wasn't a credible. Probably that it wasn't a credible election.
That's the point I'm making. Of course, that's given. But which of these parties or these people are protesting? And what are they protesting for? Is it that the other party spent money? Then we'll ask them, what's your party? Okay, we have some of you on the viral video clips. So you people should spare us. But that's not saying what went down on Saturday is the ideal thing. It's far from being ideal. But then EU calls for equity must come. You know what they say?
Yeah, with clean hands.
About clean hands. Now, The Guardian is next. The Guardian newspaper. 18 million out-of-school children. 34 states ditch UBE grants as unused funds surpass 135. I think you took that from the Punch as well. 18 million out-of-school children. Future tomorrow. 34 states ditch UBE grants as unused funds surpass 135 billion. Now, here's the statistics as given by The Guardian. High dropout rates linked to poor funding of education, corruption, poverty, poor implementation of the Child Rights Act, and lack of political will to address the problem. I think it is the latter for me. The last line, political will to address these issues. Now, 18 million out-of-school children. Now, you see them, the statistics, 581 million naira, about Kano, 1.39 billion naira, Katsina, and here, 2.6 billion naira, Bauchi. You know, because of time, we might not be able to look all of that. Meaning, there is a part that has to be played by every state for them to have access to that UBE loan. That is essentially what this, UB grant rather, that's a part you have to play, that commitment you have to make so that you have access to that particular grant. And 34 states out of 36 are not committed. They have not played their part. So the grant is just there because we won't just do what we are supposed to do. And this shows 18 million. That's more than the size of many countries, even in Africa and in Europe. And these countries are countries that we want to go to, Switzerland, many of these countries as well. They don't even have some of these, population. Many countries in Europe doesn't have 18 million, as a population. Moving on. IMF, Nigeria, others need longer monetary tightening regime to tame inflation. And chemical industry says 28 companies exited in January. Take that again, Business Week 23. Chemical industry says 28 companies exited since January. You know what the economic implication of that is. FRA Bosbeck's case for tax bills as federal government comes governance on reform. And Senate to sanction MDAs for non-compliance with financial regulations. We wait to see. Ayedatiwa's financial strength and him victory in Ondo. Well, you want to see and you want to know what that financial strength means? Pick up your Guardian this week. 3 has that. And Rivers Council boss predicts tough battle for Fubara ahead of 2027 elections. Rivers Council boss predict tough battle for Fubara ahead of 2027 elections. And presidency berates Obasanjo for criticizing successors. Okay, is instructive for the federal government, who want to tag along with successive governments and government. Say we are not the only one you are criticizing. That's how you do have this, governments after you. But that will be all from the Guardian.
And from the Guardian, we head on to the Vanguard. The Vanguard newspaper this morning. LCCI Osborne analysts others pick holes in 2025 budget. LCCI Osborne analysts others pick holes in 2025 budget. With the Raya, it will take magic wand to succeed, says Osborne, and funding will be a challenge. This is coming from financial analysts. Remember, we're in the season of budgets, and it's not just a presentation, it's about us also as electorates looking into those budgets and knowing what has been presented, not just us hearing the millions and the billions and the trillions. but knowing what these monies have been set aside for. And that picture of the president and his wife alongside the president of Brazil and his own wife at the G20 Leaders Summit in Brazil. And still, President Seyitu Obasanjo, Nigeria's economic woes began in your government. And someone will say, you campaigned to stop those wars. Why is it continuing in this administration? Enough of people playing blame games, trying to throw faults at each other. You campaigned that you can fix it. So can you just fix it? And let's not start with a blame game of who started it, who continued it. If you're continuing it, then you are also on the wrong path. I am presidential spokesman, says Daniel Bwala. You know, when I saw this particular report, most people got appointments and, you know, they were announced with letters and appointments. But, you know, yes, Daniel Bwala, of course, is a special advisor to the president. But the way he's going about announcing himself that he's, you know, a presidential spokesman, is it trying to, you know, wrestle a particular position with Bayo Onanuga? Because Bayo Onanuga has taken over Ajuri Ngalale's office as it is.
I think it's just
now, is it trying to let people know that, you know, Bayo Onanuga is just a usurper? He's supposed to be the one
I'm
in
sure
that
he
particular
wouldn't want
office.
to start with that in his new
But you know, when I saw the headline, I just got out laughing.
Make you people to understand this is my role in this government, and you people should just make your peace with it. Whatever has happened, and focus on this job.
By the way, Daniel Bwala was a spokesman, you know, to the Atiku presidential campaign in the 2023 elections, and now is in the camp of the PDP, of the APC rather, as the president spokesman.
I saw outrage from APC members.
You said?
I've seen some top APC members are outraged. They are angry at that particular thing, actually, and many of them. You saw Mr. Jesu Tega's video.
I haven't seen
that video.
I have not seen
you need
that.
to see it.
Of course, but anything with Mr. Onapasa will be fire.
He was so passionate because he felt the president has betrayed them, especially those of them that spoke for him, that, you know, got the fire, the bullets from opposition, from journalists, and from this Bwala. And all of a sudden, the president can't find any of them. In fact, he said it's not for him, that Jesus is the one taking care of him. But he says many of them who work for him are capable. And the president couldn't see. He now pitched his tent with the enemy. And he said, if the president think he can use people, God will use it. God will show you. You need to see that video.
I'll definitely go look for it and watch it.
It is what it is.
And away from that, WW3, that's World War III, looms as Russia vows response if Ukraine uses long-range missiles. Talking about the war in Europe. And on sports, 2025 African qualifiers, Rwanda beat Super Eagles in Uyo. Ondo Guba, why PDP lost recorded worst outing since 1999. Let's go to the top corner of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Rethink reform strategies. IMF advises Nigeria, Ghana, others. And Dangote refinery $6 billion to import crude. Citatom, gunmen kill 5 security operatives. PJ critically injured in Anambra, Abia, and Nigeria must address 6% tax to GDP ratio. Speaker Bass is speaking there. And that will be all from the newspaper review segment this morning. Thank you for doing this with us. We'll take this breather. When we return, we'll speak to critical issues, especially we are still on the matter in Ondo State, the election that took place on Saturday. Do not go anywhere. Morning Spring, we'll be right back.
In our lifetime, Nigeria has become a center for smuggling ivory and pangolin scales.
This is one of two Nesria holding facilities for seized wildlife
Containers
stockpile.
are come from Nigeria.
As Africa's key transit hub.
Illegal trade in wildlife has caused the decline of many species.
But together, we can change this story. No longer will we tolerate wildlife trafficking. We are updating our laws, increased the penalties, and prosecuted more offenders.
Nigeria remains fully committed in the fight against wildlife crime, and we will continue to honor all international obligations to protect our biodiversity.
Together, we will protect our wildlife for future generations. Please report wildlife crime and say no to illegal bushmeat. Because protecting nature protects all of us.
Arrested, affected, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission. Even diffusion. Vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West. And Western Spring Television is putting out all the stuff to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because you've got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live in the studio. Eccentric will be showing on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And right now, we will be talking about, having credible elections, actually, because it's not just about the result of any election. Election is part of governance, it's part of politics, by the way, which people tends to make their choice. Some call it electoral festival. It's supposed to be a time where people are excited to go elect their leaders or use their vote to remove any leaders that they don't want and put another. So that's the way it should be. And it can be intense from, country A to country Z. It can be very intense because you're talking about grabbing of power. Then the motive and the intention is very important. And then the process that produces this president is the one that we are looking at. I mean, this president, governors, leaders at all levels, parliamentarians, local government officials, chairmen, councillors. This is the conversation this morning. It's not just a result, the announcement. Oh, this person with this party has been declared the winner. But how credible? Is it fair? Is it credible? Is it rancor-free? These are the issues as well. The campaigns can be intense, but the process leading, to the emergence of these leaders is one we are looking at. And then we have had off-season elections, especially recently in Imo, in Bayelsa, in Edo, and now just a few days ago in Ondo State. And the conversation has been towards one particular thing, which is not about the quality of the process, but about what we are seeing. And this is what we are looking into this morning. I've been joined by the Executive Director of Kimpa Development Initiative. They have been doing a lot of work in election observation, and then doing things that have to do and having conversations, meetings, seminars about things that have to do with governance. So we have Mr. Bola Idowu here with us this morning virtually. Mr. Idowu, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you so much. It's good to be with you this morning.
All right, very well, and we appreciate you, for coming in. And we're looking at having credible elections, really, towards having credible elections, the kind of process that will produce the kind of leaders that will show the people's will. It doesn't have to be by fire, by force, it must be this party or that party, but how credible? Let me start from there, because we are looking at the Ondo elections. In fact, the Edo and the Odo elections, the trajectory in which we have found ourselves right now. How important is it for any nation, for any state, for any local government, in fact, let me say for any society to have credible election so that whatever leaders are produced, this represents the will of the people?
Well, thank you so much. I think it is extremely important that we look into electoral process, because that is what we have chosen to abide with. And of course, as of today, it's still the best democracy. It's still the best system of government that allows citizens to participate, to have a say in their government. I am not saying it's the best form of government in terms of development, but to allow people that freedom is still the best. And so it is just an election is just like it's just like you want to have a lot of hen, let me put it, or you want to sell egg, probably golden egg, and at the end of the day, you need? You need hen that will lay the egg. So election is from that lay the egg. The eggs are the leaders in the country. So election is a platform of recruitment of leaders. So when you get it wrong, you are not likely to get leadership wrong. So you can now see where we are coming from. So if we complain about our leaders, if we complain about the quality of leaders we have, is as a result of the electoral process, faulty electoral process that produces this set of people. It is when you have you have a pipe, a water pipe, and the water pipe is dirty inside. You don't expect clean water to come from a dirty water pipe. So that's exactly how election is. That's how important it is for a nation to have credible election. And again, people need to understand that credible election or election is not an event. As a matter of fact, the September 21 election in Edo and the November 16 election in Edo, I just mentioned dates now. That was not the beginning and the end of that election, of what constitutes that election. So most times we take that day of casting ballots to be the day of election. No, election is a process. Election starts from political party organization, then credible party primaries. Because if you have a faulty primary, you have condemned the citizen to your choice, to that faulty choice you make at the ballot, because it is the primaries of a political party that will produce 18 candidates. So if it was 40 at that particular level, then we are likely going to have 40, 18 candidates that we have to choose with. So you have condemned the citizen to now begin to ask, okay, who is the better devil out of all these people? Who is the, this one is not good, this one, but who is the better? But you are looking at a situation where you have a credible electoral process. So that is political party primary. INEC conduct is also a process that must produce credible elections. Security agencies is also a process that must, security agencies and intervention is also a process that must produce credible election. Then again, citizen understanding, political and voter education must also be part of what will produce credible process in our election in terms of recruitment of leadership. I give you an example. Although you are mayor, of course, no longer live that you have widespread of votes buying. Now, that boils down to, okay, understanding of the citizen, credibility of their choice. Now, so at that particular point in time, we will now be condemned for 4 years, in some instances 8 years, to the choice that we have made with these processes that start from political party, INEC, security agency, and then citizen, then the ultimate one, the judiciary. So 5 major institutions or stakeholders are responsible for giving us credible election. And if anything happen within that rate, then we are likely going to have 40 leadership and 40 credible elections.
Right. It is important, what you have just told us now. It's not just about that day of casting a ballot. The process will have started days, months before that. But then let me ask you this, because I know you've had that expression before. When people say, it's like in our own case, in Africa, in Nigeria, that the worst of us are the one who leads the rest of us, And people will keep churning out this particular balance every election season. And the question is, if you think the worst of us are leading us, you feel you are better, why don't you throw your heart into the ring? Why don't you do that? You and your like minds that you think you can do a better job instead of complaining and complaining. Now you talk about the process of primary elections. It is still the people, in that party that we vote, that we show their support for the candidate of the party that we elect. So in all of these things, the people always have a role to play, from the emergence of the primary candidates to the candidate that will fly the flag, to the people that will show support, to the money bags that will, fund the campaign, and all of these things. You can't put it away, the part that people has to play. But these days, we're always 1999, the worst of us, 2003, the worst of us, till 2024. So when will the people know that they have a part to play, and a good part to play, so that they won't just be talking down on the people that are in the elections, when they themselves, that they feel they are the good ones, or that they feel they can do a better job, they won't participate? Or is the system skewed against them? You understand what I've said?
Yes, so I think this is what is responsible for this. I can just, at the tips of my finger, give you 3. Number 1, the elite capture. Number 2, the institution that manage election. So elite capture in terms of political parties. Then number 2, the institutions that manage the election. So we also have to look at the credibility of those institutions, and then we also look at the voter apathy from the elite too. So let me put them in perspective. Now, one of the things you need to understand is this: political party are in Nigeria, we don't have independent candidacy. So our constitution says for you to be in any political post, you must belong to a political party. Now, that political party is the recruitment platform at which you aspire for political office, right from councillorship to the presidency. So what it means is that you must belong to a political party. Now, what is political party? Political party is a group of interested people who are interested in power, and they are bound by the same ideology, the same thinking, the same principle. So what you now have is that the political party is meant to be owned by people, the citizen. Now, but what we have today, the citizen doesn't own political party. So you have the minority elite that capture the political party. So that is why one person, for instance, one person can begin to, in Nigeria, in some of the political party, will be the one sponsoring, financing political party. So when it comes to leadership, when it comes to choosing party leadership, number one, when it comes to choosing the people that will stand for election, he sits down with few set of people to write the list. So that is what we have. But the citizens don't have a say. And that means the elite have captured it. I take you back to to 1983, 79, to 1959 election. Now, citizens hold those political parties, UPN, MPN, they own it. In fact, my dad happens to be a politician then, and then sometimes ago I saw his party. It's not an ESCO, but I saw his party card where he was contributing monthly due to the political party, and this is how they have a say. But today, you see, we can come in and say, I am the one sponsoring this, financing this political party for long. You know, when everybody abandon it, he's the one financing it. He's the one determining who becomes the chairman. Then the same thing in APC. You find little set of people, most especially in Nigeria, unwritten constitution of the political party. The moment you are the governor, automatically assume the leadership of a political of your political party. So in that particular case, they finance the political party. If you are the highest rank political party in your state, for instance, if in Osun State, let's assume the highest political, and I think today, probably the APC secretary maybe will be the highest political ranking officer, or probably I think the minister of blue economy. When you look at appointments, because probably they don't even have Senate, whatever. But that minister happens to be the highest. And that person takes the responsibility of the political party. So in that particular case, the citizens don't have a say. So what can they do? You don't contribute. You don't have a say in the political party. Decisions are taken in someone's sitting room by 2 a.m. And while they are taking that decision, they are taking it over the bottle of beer. Then you understand. Then what now happens is that citizen in that political party just abandon it, and that is what we are having. The second one is that don't treat the appointment into an election management body in isolation. So now we begin to have partisan people managing political party. Managing INEC, and that is exactly what you have. Even the civil servants in INEC, some of them are partisan. So, and this is what we have been clamoring for. One of what the things we have been championing in this reform going on is that should we be looking at an independent body who will be chosen for us, INEC Rec, INEC National Commissioner, INEC Chairman. As it is now, even if you do it with all manners of good intention, that perception is there. And I keep saying it, election is about perception. Okay, look at Ondo election. The perception is that, it's a well-organized election. You go to Edo, you say, no. The perception is there. And people drive narratives. So what am I driving at is this. If the president, who is a member of a political party, who contested an election, and then the National Assembly, who all of them are members of a political party, contested an election under a political party, we be the one to choose our rec, we be the one to choose, or the president choose the rec, choose the national commissioner, choose the chairman, and take it to the National Assembly, where his party have majority. Yeah. Even if the opposition vote against it, like we saw in the last appointment of National Commissioner and rec, now, if the opposition vote against it, they have the majority. It will always get through. So it become a political party agenda to populate the election management body. So And that is what we see. Then the last one I quickly want to mention is the aspect of the elite. Let me give you a statistic. Do you know, if you know Akure very well, Akure South local government is where Akure, the capital of Ondo State, is. Akure South have the highest number of registered voters, 384 thereabout. On the day of election, how many people came out in that election? 54,000 from Akure South, not up to 50% before. Now, I went to Ijapo. Ijapo happened to be the conclave of the elite. And then when we got to the place, you see the turnout was very low. In a particular polling unit, you have 4 people coming to vote. So what does that mean? Even the elite, the people, Akure owns a lot of institutions. They were well, you understand? Now, the elite are not even coming out to vote. So if these elite are coming out to vote, probably they will have been changing the trajectory of our direction. But we have led the voting for people that 5,000 means a lot to. No, look, Evelyn, if you are coming to vote and somebody is offering you 5,000, it becomes an insult. But on election day, you are not going to come out to vote because of your profession or because you say, look, I mean, it's very rough, and then the elites abandon it for the people that need 2,000. And this is our reality.
All right, Mr. Idowu, wow, a lot you have unpacked there for us, and we are really pressed for time. And I'd like you to help us with some recommendations for appointments into electoral offices. What would you recommend that the country should do? You mentioned that the president should not be the one appointing this national regs, the chairman of INEC. What would you recommend should be done, for the appointments into the electoral offices?
Since from different countries, of course, we've studied different countries. Recently, we are in US to look at the election process, and then we ask questions. So I take from different countries, and then we can now look at what will fit us better in this country. For instance, number one, there has to be the first one will be like it's a country that are independent bodies that select, and they don't go to the politician for appointment. So what it means that you have like a committee who seat eminent people in the society, eminent people in the country, who you give them the role as the committee. For instance, now, people still respect our peace committee in Nigeria, Absalam, Bishop Kuka, all of when they go for peace accord, politicians still come. So you look at it, and I'm not saying this peace committee, but we just need to look at independent committee to make that appointment, that recommendation. Number two is you look at, in some countries, people apply for it. So, for instance, now, the appointment of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu will end next year. So, there will have been an announcement that if you are aspiring for this position, you want to be for this position, come out. And
so it's like a job. It's like you applying for a job.
You apply for the job. So not that you sit in your house, somebody employ you or compensate you for what you have done. No. So you apply, and the citizen criticize. Citizens see the list of the people who have applied, and then the best of the best win. Now, that is one. The third one, in some countries, and that may be controversial, but it's working for them in that country. I had a story of thieves that want they want something to be settled within among themselves. So they were now looking for somebody who is not a thief like them, somebody of integrity, to settle the issue for them and to be able to distribute their loot. So what am I driving at? In some countries, it is the political party that come together, representative of political party, all of them come together and choose who will be the chairman. And you can imagine if our political party agree that this is the person we want.
Yeah.
That is another recommendation. So we can look at various recommendations and pick the one that suits us in this country.
All right, amazing. Now, let's talk about what went down in the state. Now, people have said that we've had a clear departure of what we used to have during election day. in the past, we know you see violence, you see bloodshed, you see snatching of boxes in different wards and different units. But for the Ondo and also the Edo elections that we had in September, it was a clear departure. People, when you interview people, they tell you it went peaceful, there was no issue and all of that. But we see, we like another season entirely of vote buying that is brazenly done. Now, my question is, would you say we have made progress? Looking at, with the benefit of hindsight, where we are coming from, the 1999 elections, the 2003 election, 2007 elections, 2015, 2019 elections, would you say we have actually made progress? Coming from a place of violence, now we are violence-free, but another thing is now the order of day.
Absolutely, we've made tremendous progress. Like I used to say, we are not where we need to be, but we are not where we used to be. We have made a lot of progress from the aspect of transparency, from aspect of election security, from the aspect of technology. We have made a lot of progress. For instance, now, in 2011, in 2007, the 2007 election looks like the worst, that even Yar'Adua came out and said, look, there have to be a reform and set up Justice Uwais Committee. So when you look at those elections, I remember they are still voting in Ondo State, and they've announced their governor in Abuja. Their voting is still going on, and they've announced their governor that this is the person that won, having scored the highest number, is returned, and people are still on queue. So, and that was the situation there, but those things don't happen again now. So with technology, with iRev, we can trace it, we can collate it. For instance, KDI collated the entire result, 3,000 result, 99% that was uploaded on the iRev. We collated it, tabulated it to look at what INEC declared. So now things have improved. Now again, you find violence coming down. Anyway, I want to say that, it's not like that was automatic. I know for some of us, we know the kind of work we did. For KDI, for instance, we had a lot of engagement using data. We have 3 major retreats with security agencies to give them exactly what they need to do. We organize security summit the same way with other civil society organizations. And then we already need to let people know that you don't need to die. And then you find out that, well, probably people, voter education is now beginning to work. And people begin to see why they don't need to fight. The other area is that whether we like it or not, with that, there has been that progress. We have peaceful election, which is the best, that we need to do. And then again, the other area that is also very, very tricky and dangerous is that I hope people are not resigning to fate. That why do I need to
exactly. I was coming there, Mr. Ido. I wanted to ask you if this progress we have made is producing the right results for us, or we are just celebrating this progress that is not really translating into the results that we want, which is having true democracy.
So, I think for us as civil society and everybody, the media, our job is cut out for us, because what I am seeing now is that we are not really saying we are practicing that democracy. In fact, a matter of Nigeria, as of today, is categorized under authoritarian democracy. Though, and the challenge, and this is the point, because we keep, it's like, people think election is democracy, and that is why we are having it every 4 years. And so, democracy, victory for democracy. So what about media freedom? Is that press freedom? How many journalists have been jailed? That is part of democracy. You understand? Can you protest peacefully? We have minors are charged with traceable felony. These are democracy. No party, institutional capture. It's not democracy. Institutions are meant to function themselves. So when somebody says go to court because he knows he's going to buy the judge, and then the judge is going to... So democracy goes far beyond election, and that is one thing we need to look at. So for me, I think we are making progress. We are not yet there, but I'm very sure if we keep engaged. So, for instance, now I know the judiciary are going to be a bit very careful because all attention now in the past 1999, 2007, 2003, nobody forced on the judiciary, though they come and do whatever they want to say. I mean, they do. For instance, why did Ondo get to obstacle, Edo obstacle, Oshun obstacle, Ekiti obstacle, Anambra obstacle? Let me ask you, Bayelsa obstacle, Imo, who cares about the court judgment? It was when it was delivered that people now, they removed. Even today, some people don't even know the reason. But now, that people are following them bumper to bumper at the judiciary level. And that is what we need to do. So by the time the attention we are giving to INEC, the attention we are giving to security agency, I think we need to give that same attention to two major institutions. Number one, the security agencies. We need to give it to political party number one and give it to the judiciary. And I think we will get it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Idowu. Now, lastly from me, with the Ondo elections, would you say that the will of the people prevailed? Now, I do not want you to consider the whole vote buying process that was brazenly done because there were videos flying around. But truly, would you say, with what went down on Saturday, the will of the people, whether or not they sold their conscience, really prevailed? Or were there some, skirmishes or some irregularities that could have tilted the victory to Lucky Aiyedatiwa?
So I won't say the will of the people, but I will say that the results, what the people voted, counted.
You don't think that's their will?
No. What the people thumbprinted, counted, and it was a true reflection. So, but when it comes to the will of the people, it's subjective because you cannot substantiate it. Will of the people are basically up to themselves. And nobody announced their will. But let me give you an example. In a situation, for instance, where threats goes out on the day of election in Idori, in a particular local government in Idori, that if you are not voting a particular party, don't come here. When the people that need to save their life, but at the same time come to vote otherwise because of threat, you can't say that is their will.
Yeah.
But they have been able to thumbprint because of threat. And don't forget, there were gunshots in Idori local government. So that one is that. Then secondly, when someone who is angry and coming to come and vote, at the end of the day, met 10,000 naira that he has not seen for 10 months. The will change. But what it eventually thumbprint, was that a reflection? Yes. So let's go to Edo.
Yeah.
Edo people thumbprinted. But what they thumbprinted, that you without their will, but what they thumbprinted in Oredo, in Ego, in Ikobaka, was not the reflection of what was declared. That is the point I'm making. So so that result was changed at the collation. So, but here, what the people thumbprinted was what was
reflected.
That's not the difference.
All right. Speaking to voters' apathy very quickly, about 24.8% were the figure that came out to vote, and there are people that believe that voting should be made compulsory in Nigeria. If not, we'll continue to have a decline in voters' turnout for elections. Do you subscribe to that?
Yes, it will help. It will help. You remember I said the elites don't come out to vote, but probably if they come out to vote, majority of them we are not going to collect the money. You understand? And probably the things will change. So we first of all have to look at that elite. We need to find a way of making someone like you, taking permission and say, hey, please, Mr. Femi, stand in for me. I will join you. Let me quickly go and cast my vote and come back and continue your job. We need to have many of you like that.
Yeah.
We need to have the professors in Union coming to vote. We need to have the doctors find a means of coming to vote. Probably the second point is this: should we be considering early voting? Maybe like it's done in the US. So maybe you and security agencies, the doctors will vote early, and then on that day you don't expect them to vote. Maybe observers like me, we vote early. So that's number two. We need, number one, get the elites to vote. Number two, consider early voting. Then I think number three is PVC should be abolished. PVC expires with smart card reader. Beavers don't read PVC. Do you imagine? You can imagine how many people that will have come to vote because they could not collect their PVC due to cumbersome process.
Yeah.
And then they couldn't vote. So when you take that barrier off of PVC, I only need to come to the polling unit and see my name, and I get to you and say, my name is number 400 on the list. And then you ask me to thumbprint the beavers. We don't have the same fingerprints now and facial. So when I do that and it goes through as me, then I go to vote. Do your beavers in a way that you cannot thumbprint twice.
All right.
So why are you disenfranchising people because of PVC?
Okay.
People are even getting the PVC as a means to open bank account, so I think these are the barriers that we have to look at.
All right. Quickly, in the next 1 minute, I understand you have to go, and we appreciate you for that. And I take this as your parting shot. Do you think, if actually all is said and done, I know, Kedai, possibly you've come out, or later you come out with your recommendation in review of the election, do you think we ever get to that point in which there won't be vote buying? Because many persons have said that maybe it's an intentional thing by the ruling class, irrespective of the party, to make sure the people are perpetually poor, so that during the elections, whatever is thrown at them, they won't have any choice but to take it and vote buy continues. Do you think we ever get to that point that this won't matter, won't have the talk about vote buying?
Yes, we will get to that point, and it will take political will. So we will get to that point. Number one, we need to reform. Number two, education is not going to solve vote buying. You can imagine how many, during an election on your station, you can imagine how many voter education jingle that goes on, program that goes on that say vote buying, don't sell your vote, don't vote for the person of your choice, don't collect money. It doesn't stop it. We have discovered, KDI just released a report, a survey that shows that, look, the higher the education, the higher the vote buying. People are aware that this is a criminal offense, but why are they doing it? And it's because education doesn't solve it. So we should move to the second phase, and that is punitive measure. From 2016, we have been dealing with vote buying. So you remember, Osun 2022, people were arrested. You understand? In Edo, people were arrested by EFCC. In 2023 election, people were arrested. So in Ekiti, in Kogi, people were arrested. But what happened to them? Right. Until people are held responsible for their action and somebody become an ex-convict because of selling vote or buying vote, things will not likely change. Right. So we have to reform. We have to make sure people are held accountable for their action. If not, this will continue. All
right. The executive director at Kimpark Development Initiative, Bukola Idowu, thank you very much for your time and your take on this program, and of course the good work that you and your colleagues are doing towards having a credible election, and very importantly, a kind of governance that we are proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
All right, that will be all on the program this morning. The election is one of the processes. I mean, the election day, really, casting a ballot is just one of those days. Yeah. It's a process. From the time that INEC releases the timetable, or the state CEC, in many of the CEC release a timetable, to the adoption of the primary date, the party flag bearer, everything, everybody, we must just have to do our part.
Exactly, and I think we should consider some of the recommendations made by Mr. Idowu, where he mentioned especially appointments into the electoral offices, the INEC chairman, the recs of different states, and the national rec. It should be a job people apply for. If you are, good enough, if you're fit enough for it, then you'd have it. And he also
the recruitment.
he also mentioned an independent body. He made mention of the Peace Commission, the Bishop Matthew Kuka and Abdul Salami. So I think it's one we should consider if we really want to move forward. The last recommendation he gave was the one of political parties coming together to choose.
I wonder if that will work in Nigeria.
And, the illustration he gave, it seems like it's like, in this contest now, I'm not calling them thieves, thieves coming together and say, let's just look for a way to share this loot. So we are going to look for someone neutral that can share it accordingly. For definitely. Anyone we want to pick, I think it's time we looked into it. Because if Mr. President just appoints this Rex and this chairman, definitely he pays the piper, dictates the tune.
That's what they say.
So they would really want to dance to the tune of the person who appointed them.
Yeah.
So I think
even when they're doing everything to be credible, the thing is, the person appointed might want to do a good job, credible job. The president, for analytical sake, might even answer. But the thing is, the president belongs to a party.
Yeah.
The party that is not in power will always second guess. Because in as much he's the one who appointed, you think the loyalty will be to the person who appointed him. So there will always be that banner, that toga of this person will never work for us. And if that person, the party outside government gets the power now, it's victory for democracy. But if actually they lose, then it's Ojoro. And I think we need to move from that point. But then it must be crystal clear that yes, the process is smooth. And it's not just a one-person job. He has the umpire, the selection, the OMOE, as they call them in Yoruba, the party flag bearers, and everybody, and the electorate that are fetching. They are looking for who is paying 10,000, who is paying 5,000. But then some will flip it over and say the people, the politicians made them to be like that. And who is gaining all of this? The politicians. If you buy vote or you vote, it's not the community that gets, it's the people that brought the money because they need it. And some will say the people should know that if your vote doesn't count, if it's not important, people will not be looking for you to buy.
Sure.
And I think that's the analysis. If you think it counts, they already know they vote for, they won't be going around the guy must go to buy it. It's because it counts, and some of the reasons that we are seeing this being said, or being hidden at the time, or in the last few days in Ondo, it was just, let's come and have it.
Of course, we'll continue to speak to issues as they affect us as a people. Heading towards moving to that democratic state, we should have democracy, in Nigeria. One thing that struck with me with what Mr. Idowu said was where he mentioned Nigeria, really, we can say that we are an authoritarian state and not a democratic state because of what we see
authoritarian democracy.
Yes, and some say pseudo-democracy, something that looks like democracy, but it's not really democracy. But we are working towards having that democratic state, and one day, very soon, we will get there. Thank you for being a part of our world.
We'll be that soon.
Yeah. Thank you for being a part of our world. We'll make a return tomorrow for another interesting time on Morning Spring. Watch a recap of this edition on our YouTube channel at Western Spring TV. Connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Western Spring Television. My name is Evelyn Ohiola. Remember that Spring Trends comes up right after this broadcast.
And my name is Femi Ojo. Thank you for staying with us. God bless Nigeria. God bless you. Adios.
Badamasi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held a lofty touch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker, The nickname Kwenkele was a natively corrupted version of Peculiar Mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identified Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history.
Can you imagine the feeling when you get your news as they break with facts and clarity? Our news are reported as it is.
In Africa, and all those who masterminded the way it happened will have to pay a price.
Enjoy Western programs, protecting culture and tradition to the world. Brought to you as the break and recapped every hour for your update.
Fellow Nigeria, how to improve your welfare is of paramount importance to me.
Produced and brought to you in a unique way never before seen.
Western Spring
and Western Spring Television. Television is coming home in your color and culture.
Here are 5 amazing fun facts I bet you never knew about Christianity.
Number 1, there are over 2.4 billion Christians worldwide.
Amazing fun fact number 2, the Bible is one of the best-selling books of all time, with more than 100 million copies sold every year.
Most Christians believe in heaven and hell.
The Bible is the most translated book in the world, with more than 3,000 languages.
Amazing fun fact number 5. Most Christians throw science out of the window without realizing that most scientists are Christians. Hello, I am Pastor Steve Akinwumi.
And I am Dr. Adeoye Oyewole.
Join us as we highlight and discuss day-to-day issues pertaining to the day-to-day living of every Christian.
Issues in Christendom shows every Sunday on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
As a boy, I grew up respecting the mighty lion, its strength, its courage, its power, and control of the animal kingdom. But today, lions in Nigeria are in big trouble. We have destroyed all their living species, and lions continue to be killed by traps set for all kinds of wild animals. So say no to illegal bushmeat, because protecting nature protects all of us.
A very beautiful day it is right here in the beautiful city of Osogbo, Osun State. Thank you for joining us for Spring Trends right here on Western Spring Television. On Spring Trends, we speak to issues trending, especially on social media. What is trending, who is trending, where they are trending, and we get to take reactions. My name is Evelyn Ohiola, welcoming you, especially, and of course, Femi Ojo is right here. Welcome, Femi.
Thank you. Very well. We are like, when you wanted to come, you say a very, the only thing that came to mind, I was thinking you are going to say a very dark man. Okay. But it's a very good morning, It's good.
Yeah.
Good to be here. Let's do this.
All right, let's do this. The very first story this morning is centered on the statement made by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who was in the saddle who saddled the responsibility of being the #1 man in the country from 1999 to 2007 until that time where he, handed over the baton to late Mr. Yar'Adua. And, he made a statement recently about the administration of President Bola Tinubu, saying that the corruption in this particular administration is, it can be compared to, and he's made mention of the fact that under this administration, Nigeria is gradually becoming a failing state. Of course, that such statement will not go down without a reaction. We have a reaction from the process, saying, blasting Mr. President, Mr. former president, I should say, and asking him to apologize to Nigerians, saying he lacks the moral rights to condemn this administration. Let's check the polls of people on social media, what they think about this. And this one is by Narrowscope. Narrowscope says, if we should go deep into what Baba, that's former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Baba explicitly said, there are elements of fact in it. The majority of Nigerians devoid moral teachers and inculcate themselves with immoral principles that shaped up the type of character our leaders used to govern the system. And Austin Adzewi says, at least his government was far, far better than what we're experiencing now. I mean, Zewi thinks under the administration of President Olusegun Obasanjo, Nigeria was better than what it is now. And only truth will out. Says that Onye Juta says, see the people talking about morality, nothing Musa no go see forget. And Henry Moses says, this government, instead of accepting constructive criticism from an elder statesman, they are here spitting jargons. Can that dispute the fact that Nigerians are not suffering? Their reforms is eating deeper and virtually through every Nigerian into abject poverty. And Olashukwu Jake says, OBJ must apologize to Nigerians for getting us a debt relief. He must also apologize for bringing mobile telecoms to the country. I mean, this is sarcasm. Olashukwu Jake's trying to reel out what Obasanjo did during his administration. Femi, what do you think about this?
Say, Pikin wey no pass in a class of 5, let's say the total mark obtainable is 100. Now, Pikin wey no pass, he can score 10. Others can score 9, 7, 5. Even Richard says, as the people say, no be only me. Is that in our class? Nobody.
Even the most intelligent failed.
Even our senior boy, I get passer.
There's a feeling when the most intelligent in class failed that subject. You're like, thank God, at least it's not me.
If I buffy fail, who I be? Just like say they carry your life for years, people go check outside.
Yeah.
Check what's the number and say, it's
thank
okay.
God, it's everybody's.
So it's their, in their response. I've seen some of the things they wrote. All of them, gun blazing everywhere. Sunday Dar is blazing. Byron Nuga is blazing. Everybody is blazing. Also, there is a command from a desk that they say, boys,
release the bazooka.
The thing is, where's the lie?
Yeah.
Obasanjo doesn't have moral right, Abi. I saw a video yesterday of a grown man. That man should be in his 50s or something, shouting from his for pay, saying 12 kg cylinder of gas is now 18,000 naira. I was shouting. You could see the pain. He was cursing and spitting. If that works, I don't know. But you could see the pain. That man too, he doesn't have the moral.
Yeah.
These are the things. The indices are there. You keep telling us things will get better. Now, when we want to make yourself feel better, you say, okay, let's look at the past. Is the succeeding government? Now, I'm not even sure they can even talk about PDP 16 years again. It's not more popular. After PDP 16 years, they've had Buhari's 8 years.
8 years.
Even some persons, some of them will work with the same Buhari, they are throwing the same Buhari's government under the bus. The thing is, it's not working. I don't know if they have plans, that's what they say they have, but it's not showing. There is a light after the tunnel. What was that itself? Under the tunnel, at the end of the tunnel. Tunnel don't crash. NEPA transformer don't blow. Everywhere.
Literally. The national grid
transformer in all this area, it don't blow. Everybody is just, These are the issues. So Obasanjo doesn't have moral rights. We agree. So what about the things that you talked about?
Yeah.
Can you please say you know what?
Speak to the issue.
And now, he doesn't have it. We agree. He wanted to do it on time. We agree. He collect debt. We agree. I saw one of the responses. They said he set up a bad economy, whatever, for succeeding. I said these ones are looking for who to call along so that they will fight their battle. Yeah, okay, it's okay. So we were there here now. This is not 1999. Now that they have been speaking on the matter, if anybody will come up now, your voice is too loud, they will come back at the person and say it's opposition. They will go and look at your CV. Yeah. One day that you like something that maybe you like or just like somebody that is of the opposition, so they shut it and say, even though now position he be. And it doesn't work. And this side is not new. That's what they used to do. Jonathan government did the same. Yeah. You know, at the time, some of the handlers of Jonathan, when Babato is PDP card, they say he only has 1 vote. At the end of the day, then before the election, they saw that things were not working. And treaties were made to the same OBJ by the Jonathan's government. Fayose said, I told them, if Baba starts with you, you know they forgive. Once you pick up that quarrel, they fight it, they go. No, we are not saying, that's why I say, forget the man.
Politics aside.
Yeah. Forget the man. He doesn't have the moral. We agree. Yeah. Now, we will not be Baba's Joko. Sure, we cannot see. Like 6 years ago, and I have reason why I'm saying this, a liter of oil was $4.50. You know, sachet of oil of a particular product. Now is around, it should be around 3,002. Okay. It doesn't just turn like that over. What about a year ago? How much did they buy Congo of rice? Yeah. They will say, oh, we were living fake life. Bandla say, we were living fake life. It's the real life. That real life, it doesn't have. Do you know my issue with all of these things? That real life will never affect the ruling class. It's the people that they are telling to tie bets when no day. People don't buy the bet up because that's where we are right now. They say tie your bet. People we don't naked. When they want type them. It's like they are living in a bubble. Like they are disconnected. Recently, as a roundup on this one, President's wife, the emir, I went somewhere. I say his clothes that will give us unity. They brought us a bit. From October 1, they brought that clothes that they wore. Where is the unity now? Mama organized something. They will pay that.
The national anthem, change of the national anthem. What has it done?
You know, say people say a person when they sleep, they wake. You know, you say they sleep. By the time they touch, you know, say no be wake, you wake.
Yeah.
That's all.
All right, we just hope that things would get better. Really, that's what Nigerians just want at this time. A lot of things are happening and people are really, really not finding it rosy at this time. People just want food, clothing, shelter, basics of life. People do not really want to leave vacant. I mean, people just want to have something to eat.
The Baba said that the poor should breathe. Of course now.
Let's move on to our next story this morning. And we have this report saying that Nigeria to begin local manufacturing of vehicle spare parts. This is according to the National Automotive Design and Development Council, NADDC. And this is a good call, if you ask me. We start to manufacture vehicle spare parts locally. By the way, this is not new to Nigeria. There was a time Nigeria had industry. You know about the Michelin and all of that. We had industry that were producing the spare parts in Nigeria. All of a sudden, we didn't know what happened. Now we are announcing as though it's a new thing in Nigeria.
We knew what happened. Power got bad. Everybody moved. That's what happened.
And is the power better now?
Is it?
Is power better?
All power belongs to God.
So the federal government, through the National Automotive Design and Development Council, NADDC, has unveiled plans to commence the manufacturing of 10 essential vehicle parts. This initiative aims to establish the necessary infrastructure and frameworks to bolster Nigeria's automotive industry. NADDC Director General Joseph Osanipme, represented by the Director of Research, Design and Development, Fidelis Achieve, disclosed this during the closing ceremony of a 2-week training program in Abuja. Let's take reactions. Aladdin says they said imported fuel is cheaper than locally produced one. Now spare parts go on cheap. Besides, is Ajaokuta steel mills now functioning? These are some of the industries that have gone moribund. And Pitali says this stuff has been produced locally for long, it's not new, although the ones being produced already are not standard. Cruz at real_Latif says to begin. So what was NADDC doing all these years? I mean, they just create them. And Taylor Mbeke says, with a country of over 200 million people, shocking that we aren't doing this already. And Ismail says, they play. How many times? They play. Yeah. How many times they won't promise, same promise? And this actually brings me to the last administration of Hadi Sirika, who said, by the end of 2023, Nigerians will start producing its own airplane. Airplane spare parts. Or was it airplane? Until this is the end of 2024. Even the tire of plane.
Are you talking about power? The only power that I know is Walaula or Kwata.
It's funny and it's not funny. Because if Nigeria, the giant of Africa, we are announcing this, and it seems like a big deal that we'll start producing spare parts
of Africa.
The giant.
Now what did they tell you? I mean, now what do you read?
I mean, this should not be something we should celebrate. This should be something that is supposed to be a part of us already. We've had companies like, Michelin, Dunlop, the Ajakuta, and all of that.
Bata.
Now they are gone, some moribund, and now they are telling you that they are trying to talk to the Gen Z or Gen Alpha who doesn't really know that who does not know that we've had stuff like this before.
The issue that people have is that use of language to begin. It's not just begin, maybe to resuscitate that. But I don't know, maybe there's what's going to be with these people back on. They will just say people, can't wait today or to start begin. I mean, we begin to produce this stuff.
Set to do
okay. Hello, what can you do in your hand? CS section, it will be free. For it will not get light. What can you do here? It's a shame.
Yeah.
If you can take it back to that, the story, those stuff that were the pictures that were there, what was inside tire when Nigeria no fit do tire? I say all these things now. Hydraulics, hydraulics and some of these things. These things are normal. We've had it before, something close to it. But bad management of economy is what caused all of these things. Power, especially power. I remember a former governor, two-time governor, who had this big portfolio, in the way he talks, was talking before his government took over and said a serious government will fix power in 6 months. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's his son.
Yeah. Just say his name.
He's member of the ruling class.
Say his name with your full
With this age and marital status of mine, I'm not becoming an elder, small. I can't be talking with my full, but I can't talk with my full chest. But Batunde Raji Fashion, I said it. At the stakeholders program, just before the APC came and said, a serious government, a serious government for grabs. Why am I sounding like Lege Miami on this particular thing? This is where we are right now.
Yeah.
He spent 8 years in that government. He was given power and then works. At the time, power was taken, works and housing or something. And then the government in which he served, I'm not sure did well at all or had anything significant to the national grid. We are talking about to begin. How do they begin? Even the company that are existing now, some of them are they are choked.
Yeah.
In our area, we keep saying it now, almost 90% of these axes, we don't have power because something has boom, boom, boom. The electricity distribution companies that are supposed to take charge, people will tell you, you will pay. Actually, you are waiting for them. And constitutional is their work, is their function. Now, very soon, people will start, the community, because they want to help themselves,
you have to contribute.
Going around, to tax the people to pay. And after they've fixed it, this distribution company will come back
and so
to say you must pay for power. This is the kind of things we are saying. Can we? Yes, we can. I'm sure if somebody in a very good technical school, some of these phones, where would they buy? Are they not products of some low-skilled person somewhere that has a very good, platform in which they can function? What's inside the tire that Nigeria cannot do? And some of these things, hydraulic gates and these tools that are there, these things now. But it's good to talk, but walk the talk. That is it. A nation that has a power, what's it called? National grid on ICU, collapsing every now and then want to produce. Well, how would they do the production? Can we? We can. We should. 64-year-old country. Abba. But we don't get shame. We don't get shame. See shame. See Nigeria. Opposite side. The leaders. I'm not talking about my country. I'm talking about the leaders that are there right now. Somebody will buy Maybach finish. You go and buy PJ. All of a sudden, he's now reducing the size of cabinet. He's telling people not to buy anything. But he's now in Brazil. And it's not just only him. Some of those governors that they are giving people empowerment all over. It's okay. When we are ready, we'll do what we are supposed to do.
All right. I mean, that was Femi released his bazooka this morning.
No get shame, Nina. 64-year-old country, no fit do
this morning.
We big. You now look like an achievement.
We move on to our next and final story this morning that will be introduced with a video. Nigerians in diaspora are urging President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to intervene and reinstate the 2006 gazetted alignment, which has been altered by the Federal Ministry of Works in the investment estate located at Shinage 16 to 18. And they say that restoring this alignment is crucial to safeguarding their $250 million foreign direct investment and will reaffirm their confidence in his administration. Let's take this video. We'll come back to take action.
My name is Engineer Femi Adekoya. I'm a stakeholder and partner with Win Homes Real Estate. The action of the Minister of Works, Engineer David Umai, has undermined and negated the importance of the environmental impact and social assessment of the diverted alignment of chainage 17 to 18 of the Okun-Ajah axis, away from the original gazetted alignment of 2006 of the dead former Lagos State Governor, now the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in person of President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In view of the technical aspect of the EIA and ESA, the engineering aspect of the EIA was not properly conducted, thereby resulting in inadequate environmental impact assessment. The sudden diversion of the road alignment around Okun-Ajah grossly violated.
All right, we could just take part of that video, but then this is speaking to Nigerians in diaspora who are bringing back investment into the country. As a country, we should actually ensure that we have laws and we make the country conducive enough for those outside of the country to send back money into the country, have investment, their investment here. Not you making up, taking up projects or making up laws or continuing laws that will continue to frustrate their efforts in returning back to the country to invest. Some people might even have to go to other African countries. They will tell you, if that country is welcoming enough, then I'd rather go to other countries that are welcoming. I'd rather go to Ghana. Take my investment to Ghana. Ghana is close enough to Nigeria.
Or put their funds where they are.
Exactly.
And many of them will not have the plans of returning home again.
Exactly. Let's just take reactions. Ungozimbe says the 2006 Coastal Road alignment was set aside almost 20 years ago by the now president when he was governor of Lagos State. What's the point of keeping something for almost 20 years only to divert from it? It makes no sense. The honorable minister should stick to the original Coastal Road alignment. That's all they are asking. And Big Uju Posh says the truth is that after all the grammar, they do not care. People will come with ideas and money abroad to invest in Nigeria. What do they get in return? Frustrations. And Ungol Zimbis saying, again I ask, how is a coastal road rerouted to pass through residential and commercial areas within town? The idea of a coastal road is a road along the coast. It defeats the entire purpose if a coastal road is not along the coast. Take the coastal road back to the original alignment. Simple. And Ololade Akinola says people also complain about the original coastal road. Now it is realigned. Affected people also complain. It's not easy to see one's property being destroyed, and I feel everyone's pain. The truth is, no matter how they want to do the coastal road, people will be affected. Your thoughts very quickly, Femi.
I think whatever needs to be done needs to be done. If there is need to go and revisit that gazetted stuff, they need to do that, the setting aside, and all of these, building and, contractual jargons, they just need to do that. And the minister, government is a continuum, should be forthcoming. It should be approachable enough, and people working with him, because sometimes it's not just about the principal. It's about other persons. There are some persons that are over here. They just want to do like they are working and they are giving their boss to show, oh, no, you can't see him. No, you can't do that. So we should have a sit down. And now that this man has reached this particular point, maybe at a stakeholders meeting, it should be revisited, whatever needs to be done. The thing is, we only hope.
No, it's actually not this man alone. It's like a community.
I know, like investors, right?
Yes.
Who came to invest in a particular thing.
Yes.
And now whatever is happening is affecting them. And 20 years down the line, or almost 20 years, this is still being talked about. Is because something has not gone the way it was planned.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So everybody needs to talk on this matter. But the point I'm trying to make is this: we only hope these things doesn't affect us. If there will be civilization, if there will be construction, if there will be infrastructure, some things might have to give. We only hope it doesn't come to our end. But if actually it does affect people, there are plans, there are payments, compensation that should be made, and it should not look like witch hunting. Where people will not have it was the example of a woman we took last week or last 2 weeks, where he said, I begged you that you should not touch this particular thing. That's the only property remaining that my husband left for me. You have, the project has affected an estate or two, but you touched it and you rerouted your way around another person's residence because the person is a politician. We will not have this. If these things will affect me, then it should affect that person too, not because I'm a bad belly, the way we say it there, but if they get the inkling that because this person is part of the high and mighty, leave his own property and you can destroy others, people will have it. Because these are some of the issues as well. The work of the works minister is not an easy one, especially when you want to embark on a project, but let them feel you cater and you care for them. And whatever compensation they are going to be paying, let it be fast, let it show air. And I think what really people to work in the snow, in the rain, in the cold, and bring the money home for investment, and they're being frustrated. Nobody will do that. And not just that they won't have it. If any of their friends will tell you to this amount of money on the person, that you better make you chop your money because you'll be frustrated. And what happens to FDI? What happens to diaspora remittances? These are the issues.
All right, these are the issues, and that's where we draw the curtain for the show this morning. Thank you for joining us and being a part of our world. Thanks so much, Femi Odo, for your analysis this morning. We'll make a return tomorrow for the midweek installment of Spring Trends. Until then, ensure to have a good and fruitful day. My name is Evelyn Ohiole.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest bits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolate side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be showing on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Here are 5 amazing fun facts I bet you never knew about Christianity.
Number 1, there are over 2.4 billion Christians worldwide.
Amazing fun fact number 2. The Bible is one of the best-selling books of all time, with more than 100 million copies sold every year.
Most Christians believe in heaven and hell.
The Bible is the most translated book in the world, with more than 3,000 languages.
Amazing fun fact number 5. Most Christians throw science out of the window without realizing that most scientists are Christians. Hello, I am Pastor Steve Akinwumi.
And I am Dr. Adeoye Oyewole.
Join us as we highlight and discuss day-to-day issues pertaining to the day-to-day living of every Christian.
Issues in Christendom shows every Sunday on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
As a player, there's nothing better than the roar of your crowd. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left, they could be extinct in the next few years from loss of habitat and prey and snares set for illegal bushmeat. So please, say no to illegal bushmeat. Let's keep the roar alive for Nigeria, because poaching steals from us all.
Since assuming the mantle of leadership in Osun, the state of the Living Spring, Governor Ademola Adeleke has left no one in doubt about his avowed commitment to the overall development of the state. The footprints of his transformative agenda span through education, transportation, health, staff welfare, social infrastructure, among others. Living Spring Update, a weekly diary on Rave 91.7 FM and Western Spring Television, channel 190 StarTimes DTT, will extract Governor Adeleke's development agenda for your listening and viewing pleasure. From the bustling market to innovative agricultural initiatives, from the testimonies of civil servants and retirees to the cheers of artisans across the state of the Living Spring, you will discover how Governor Adeleke's administration is driving the economic growth of the state. Stay informed and engaged with Living Spring Update, where we will delve deep into the details of ongoing infrastructural projects, new initiatives in healthcare, education, and other impactful strides being made across the state. Tune in every Wednesday on Western Spring Television at 6 p.m. and every Saturday on Rave 91.7 FM at exactly 2:30 p.m. You can follow us on all our social media platforms at Western Spring Television and at Rave 917 FM as we tell the story of how Governor Adeleke is shaping Osun into the beacon of development and opportunity.
Living Spring Update is a production of the Office of the Spokesperson to the Governor, Governor's Office, Osogbo.
Illegal bushmeat is not cool, but it's on sale in our cities, risking extinction and our health. And many of our caught wild animals are threatened. So please be cool and say no to illegal bushmeat. I make Nigeria better for wildlife and safer for us all. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
Arrested, affected, Sound. Found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission. Even diffusion. Vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Hello. Good afternoon to you, the viewer on Western Spring Television, and welcome to our weekly interview program. We call it Pertinent Questions. On this program, we engage our guests on issues that help us in our nation-building effort. Food, you'll agree with me, is central to human life. Without food, life could be cut permanently short. You meet a man who has not eaten for 3 days or 5 days, and you would see a skeleton almost. In the studio with me this afternoon is a lady scientist whose knowledge in the field of food science is very high and very deep. No wonder she is the head of department for the Food Science and Technology Unit of Osun State University, head of department, Uni Osun I speak of. My guest is Mrs. Adedayo Adeboye. She holds a PhD in food science, and she's the head of department, as I've said. It is this lady of substance that I have the pleasure of talking to this afternoon on our program, Pertinent Questions. Food concerns you, concerns me, concerns everybody. And so I think we should be willing and ready to pay attention. Madam, you're most welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Can I stretch a hand for a lady's handshake?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
This production is in 2 parts. We spend the first part trying to see the nitty-gritty of what we must know, call it intellectual, and you may be right. We try to know what is this, what is that, what is this, and what is there. So, food science, I would ask very innocuously, what is food science and technology?
All right, thank you very much for having me. I count it a great privilege to be here this afternoon. Food science and technology is the study of the physical, the chemical, and the biological nature or properties of food materials and how these properties interact during processing and subsequent storage of the food material. So that's what, and it's a multidisciplinary course that revolves around physics, chemistry, biology, engineering properties, the agricultural concept of food. So that's food science.
Agricultural concept of food. Yes, I had it as my second question. I think it is still pertinent for me to ask, even though you appear to have answered it, but I want the specifics. A young secondary school student who in future wants to study food science because the head of the Department of Food Science, University of Uni Osho, is brilliant. So what must he do?
All right. Firstly, an aspiring food scientist must be a science student. You know, science is in the word food science. All right. And then, depending on the institution that student intends to attend, you will take JAMB subjects, physics, chemistry, biology, sometimes physics, chemistry, mathematics. All right. And then the usual 5 subjects pass in O levels. You know, because it's science-based course, it's technological-based. So that's it.
So you must read physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics,
and English.
And perhaps also Greek science.
Yeah, so some institutions take biology, a pass in biology, minimum pass in biology, or Greek.
Okay. What does the food scientist or technologist do in the food lab? Is there anything called food lab?
Yes.
Okay. I want to know.
We have many dimensions of food laboratory. The basic one is the food processing laboratory. And then your products from the food processing laboratory would either visit the food analytic laboratory, the food microbiology laboratory. There's also a sensory laboratory too. All right.
Sensory.
So, yeah, sensory. It's very important.
What does that bring about?
So sensory, from the word sense organs, tells you how your sense organs, the 5 sense organs, respond to the food material you have created. Remember that in food science, we are converting. We are converting the food crop to something edible, wholesome for a consumer to take in. And at the same time, in converting, you don't want to cut and have it bitter for something you desire to be sweet. So it's sense organ, in this case, tongue, that tells you whether it's bitter or it's sweet or something else. And then textural properties too. You know, there are some foods that we expect to be hard. So after production, you want to know how hard. You want to know the consumer's level of acceptance of that hardness. Remember growing up, you had this Paco biscuit. All right, so there's a perceived texture that Paco biscuit should have. And then there's a perceived texture that cookies should have. So it's in the sensory laboratory that you do a balance of all of these things.
That's water. In my elementary school science tells me water has insipid taste and has it's tasteless.
Yes.
Now, if I have a food production, and has some of these things, a quality like that, not necessarily sweet, and then you find some pharmaceutical, the our food, they are very bitter. So how do you place that?
So initially, you must know your purpose, the objective for that particular kind of food. And in knowing that objective, that's what gives birth to the eventual taste. All right. There are some that you may never be able to get rid of, whether it has a bitter taste or not, you know, but you could have other things added into the composition that would mask or reduce the intensity of that taste. And there are some other foods that are bland, they're expected to be bland, and that's the way we want it to be. So I think by that, the taste of water that you're talking about, bland in this case, is tasteless. You know, so some foods occur like that.
Okay, we will come to some other nitty-gritties. What can be said to be the role of a food scientist like you in nation building?
Just as you said at the opening, without food, the existence of man is threatened. So a food scientist ensures that food is always available in the right quantity, in the correct quality. It's one thing to produce food, it's another thing to have the quality tampered with. So the food scientist is concerned with the quality, the quantity, and then the availability too, and the utilization. You know, there's also an interaction between the constituents of food and the body system. So whatever food that you are producing, that the food scientist is bringing to the table, must be one that the body can also absorb the nutrients in it. If there's something wrong with the body that threatens the absorption, then there are other alterations that the food scientist will, look into. So it's a total package. You are involved in the production, you're involved in the utilization, you're involved in the consumption too. Until the food gets into the stomach, the job of the food scientist is not done.
It's not done.
Yes.
Even if I don't want a package for packed food. I want to go to my farm, uproot some cassava or cut some plantains. What role has this the food scientist got to do in that or to play?
The role of the food scientist begins after harvest. Interestingly, we these days we are beginning to be interested in the pre-harvest conditions. Because it's what you put in that you get.
I have a question. I don't know if it was relevant here. I was going to ask you, or if it is not, just linking together. Is there any relationship between the food scientist or technologist and the agricultural man?
All right. So in lame terms, I can say we are cousins.
Okay.
And how do I mean? The agriculturist is the planter. And then when he plants and brings out, you've used cassava as an example, now the cassava comes out. And we're just looking at the cassava tuber. It is the job of the food scientist to convert the cassava. We are not goats. We can't eat the cassava raw. So it's the job of the food scientist to convert the cassava tuber into something edible, palatable. So that's where we come in. But like I said, as I was saying before, there's now an overlap where there's a particular kind of cassava I want because of the end product I have in mind. So I now have to relate with the agriculturist to tell him, this is the kind of cassava I want you to plant for me so that I have this particular output. So we need to work together. We are working together. That's the food scientist and the agriculturist.
But in spite of this, we find situations in our environment. People bring out end products anyhow. There is NAFDAC, which is struggling. I will use the word. What role is food scientist playing? You in one corner, you see somebody who does kuli kuli. She does it in her own to her own taste. You find the plantain roaster. She does it in her own. What check-ins can the food scientist or must the food scientist play in this?
All right.
Do you have the confidence to go to him and challenge him?
We have the confidence, but we do not have the empowerment yet. And I'm trying to be careful with my words.
Okay.
Food scientist in Nigeria belongs to a body called the Nigerian Institute of Food Science and Technology. That's supposed to checkmate all of these issues that you have highlighted. And some few years ago, we became chartered, and we're in the process of getting our act together so that we can go to the Bolly maker and say, this is the standard. There are standards to these things, to ensure, to enforce, to regulate the activities of roadside food manufacturers. So yes, food science is involved. We ought to be involved. Given the right atmosphere, it's something we do.
Now, it takes me to this question. It could be in your studio, not in your studio, in your laboratory and things like that. What, and then the social thing. I'm happy you just mentioned that you are chartered. You are not yet, you have the confidence, but you don't have the enablement or something like that. What challenges do food scientists like you face at work? Aside these social ones.
Well,
your laboratories, are they well powered? Bacterial infection and things like that in our homes.
All right. Okay, so let's take it from my laboratory. I stand here as a staff of Osun State University.
The head of department.
And the head of department of the Department of Food Science and Technology. Thank you for reminding me. Interestingly, that department is just about 5 years old in the university. And in that 5 years, the university has done a lot, to ensure that we are up to date, we are at par with standard practice. So we are not there yet. There is no perfect system. But the university is empowering us, giving us the right tools to come up with scientific findings that will either validate or invalidate practices outside there. So yes, at our laboratory levels, we are doing our bit. We check what we need to check. We also make sure that our researchers attest what the needs of the society. You know, trying to answer questions about poisonous substance, toxic substances in food, the use of toxic ingredients. We do that, you know, and our outputs are available, you know, for people that need it.
You are head of department. That's an institution.
Yes.
You are not just an ordinary food scientist in one corner.
Okay.
That may not have may have the confidence, to borrow your words again, doesn't have the enablement. Is there any known relationship between institutions like yours and NAFDAC, the overall body that?
Yes, and I think the most recent relationship we have is the fact that the department runs the bakery of the institution. And we don't say because we are food scientists and we have that confidence, we also respect regulation. So NAFDAC had to come visit us to ensure that we are following standards, and then they give us NAFDAC number. So that's one basic relationship that we have. And we also have a working relationship where we could invite them to give talks and things like that. So
You are in your laboratory, and then bam, electricity goes.
that's Nigeria now. That's Nigeria factor.
Yeah. So what challenge? And then what challenge
Yes,
do situations like that?
definitely it halts whatever process you have at hand. But within work hours, the institution gives us alternative power supply. So the generator comes on within a very short time. You know, despite the increase in fuel, electricity itself, the university still has to manage all of this. So we have power running.
You gave me a caveat. You said when you are enough data, when you have closed and gone home, your laboratory is supposed to be functional. Can it be certain incubations? I don't know. I'm just using words.
Yes,
I'm a layman.
Yes.
Certain incubations you have
So
done.
yes, the university, I'm aware, has a molecular laboratory that has inverter powered system. So if you have sensitive things you are working with, you have access to these laboratories to keep, you know, so that the Nigeria factor doesn't come up, you know. But more often than not, the power grids we're enjoying at the university too, I think the band A thing, there's usually more or less regular electricity, even when we are not at work.
Okay, let me ask this question. I don't know, you're a professional in that realm. Is there any relationship? You are not a dietitian, are you?
Not exactly.
Is there any relationship between the food scientist and the dietitian?
Yes.
Can you explain that to us?
All right, just like I told you, we are involved, the food scientist is involved in converting the crop into something edible. Now, a dietitian is interested in what nutrients that particular food can offer to meet specific needs, either age-based needs, or health-based needs. So there's a synergy between the food scientist and the nutritionist.
Okay.
You know, to ensure that the food we are delivering performs the function they want it to perform. And as food scientists too, it's also a part, an aspect of food science, nutrition, where we make sure that, for instance, let me give a very good example now. If we're manufacturing weaning foods for babies, we always try to make sure that the weaning foods are almost in close resemblance with the milk, with the mother's milk.
What is weaning food?
Sorry. So weaning foods are foods that babies take after the mandatory exclusive breastfeeding period.
Okay.
And you know, they're supposed to have certain nutritional
Preparing
components.
them for the mother to wean them.
Yes, to take them off the
ma-
breast milk.
Okay.
All right. And so the nutritional composition for that weaning food is different from the nutritional requirements for a 5-year-old.
Okay.
So that is where the food scientist comes in. There must be a particular level of carbohydrate. There must be a particular level of protein. These are food nutrients. And so the nutritionist tells us, this food, I want it for a 1-month-old baby. I want it for a 10-year-old. I want it for an aged. So we make our productions tailored towards that end use.
Okay.
So that's the relationship between the food scientist and the nutritionist.
Is there any point in time where friction comes in?
No, everybody, your work is clearly defined and you stay within that defined space.
Anyway, I was going to bring this question up in the second part of our presentation, but since you have already opened the lid, let me bring it in. Now, there is always you are not a nutritionist, as you said, but you work in consonance with
them, yes.
with them. The little boy you have spoken about, the little child, the middle boy or girl, 20, youth, and then the aged.
Yes.
Which of them demands in their care, which of them demands us being very intentional?
Every level, sir, I must say. Every level of growth has a required level of intentionality. You don't want to make mistakes at any point in time. Just before coming in here, I was going through Instagram, and there's this thread about parents overstuffing their children with food, young children. They are leading them to obesity. So that's why I said we have to be intentional at every stage. The energy requirements for children are age-specific. They are activity-specific. So whatever food you're feeding them at certain points in time must tally with what they need. You don't want to give them what they do not need. The body has a way of storing, building up these unnecessary things. And then you have it coming back to bite you in the face, in the years to come. So I think that it's very important that parents, caregivers are intentional at every stage, given the right requirements. There's something called the required dietary allowance for or dietary intake for specific nutrients. People must know this and stay within, that information so that we do not have problems. For instance, you don't want to underfeed and you don't want to overfeed. You must do optimal feeding at every stage.
We live in a country where food is very, very difficult to come by now. So the formula 1-1-1 has changed drastically to sometimes 1 instead of 3 places.
Right.
So how do you, and then take this along before we go on break. Obesity, you mentioned. Some children won't just grow fat no matter what kind of food you give them. Must you go the extra mile and just be in a situation where your take-home pay or emolument cannot take you home?
All right, so you want me to answer that now?
Yes.
Yes. I agree that food is hard to come by for obvious reasons, the current economic situation. But it takes me again to the fact that even when food was available, or readily available, many people eat wrongly. I think the most important thing is, number one, know what you need to eat, not what you want to eat, what you need to eat. And then start looking for alternative sources. If the available one is expensive, we can begin to look around us.
You are talking of elderly people who have pockets. The young boy doesn't differentiate between what you have said. Know what you want to eat.
Who feeds the young boy?
The parents.
That's what I'm saying. So the conversation is for the parents. For instance, fish is expensive, but we have other sources of proteins that are not as expensive as fish. We have nuts that we can eat. So it's not when you see a big chunk of chicken on your food that you are eating protein. No, we need to start reorienting.
There's a psychology. Mommy didn't give me.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So we need to start taking care of that psychology now, else we'll run into trouble.
So, doctor, imagine a situation in which a mother like you gives pounded yam to his son or daughter, 14, 15-year-old, and instead of getting meat, goes for granules and says, this is a good combination.
Thank you, sir. So that's, again, the job of the food scientist. So you can do a groundnut meal that is not groundnut as nuts or seeds.
Okay.
There's something called texturized vegetable protein. And a very common example is what we call beske. That's tofu or soya meat. Is that not psychology? Appealing to the psychology of the consumer. It's not meat in itself. It's an analog, something that looks like meat, but it's not meat. So yes, mothers can begin to do that, come up with innovative ideas. That's one. Two, we can also educate our children. Let them understand that we're responding to times and seasons. And so you are nutritionally, you are well fed.
Yeah.
You're eating balanced diets.
When I was much younger, some 70 years ago, because there was poverty, and mom and dad would give, instead of giving you meat, they give you what we call isakpa.
Okay.
And then money.
Yeah. Beautiful.
But today you want to tell me your daughter or son, you give him or her money, and he will want to take it in 21st century that we are?
All right. It's a function of knowledge. Honestly, it's a function of knowledge. And interestingly, we're the ones that call it poverty. Insect protein is another thing.
Yes.
In the Western world, it's expensive. But because we're picking it by the roadside, we're not paying for it. You know, because there's no economic value attached to it, we think it's cheap. But it's not cheap. It's rich. These things have as much as 30% protein. That's a lot.
When Tai Sholari was alive, he did mention one time, and everybody went crazy. I should be going for lizard.
If we prove tomorrow, sir, that lizard is safe for consumption, we will go for lizard.
Okay. I think we will draw the curtains halfway now.
All right.
We will punctuate the show and come back later on and look at some other. I want to promise you we'll talk about GMOs, so prepare your mind for that. Today, viewer at home, the last 25 minutes have been very wonderful. Food scientists, and as I did mention, food touches everybody. The rich, the poor, the ugly, the beautiful. Everybody must eat. And so you have learned one or two things. If you're a student and you want to become a professor in food science and technology, you know what courses you must read. We will come back. The break is imminent, and we are due for it now.
In our lifetime, Nigeria has become a center for smuggling ivory and pangolin scales.
This is one of two Nesria holding facilities for seized wildlife stockpiles.
Come from Nigeria.
As Africa's key transit.
Marine wildlife has caused the decline of many species.
But together, we can change this story. No longer will we tolerate wildlife trafficking. We're updating our laws, increased the penalties, and prosecuted more offenders.
Nigeria remains fully committed in the fight against wildlife crime, and we will continue to honor all international obligations to protect our biodiversity.
Western Spring Television, Agobelewo, Oshobo, that's where we are. In the studio with me is food science and technology. Yes, I think I can. Food scientist and technologist, okay, whichever way. Dr. Adedayo Adeboye is the head of department, food science and technology, UniOsun. Before we went on break, we were talking about diversification, eating things like best care, you call it, and I was trying to also supplement it with money, and this thing I said, Isakpa, functioning as meat. Now, this is the reality of our time now. The days are gone. Is there food crisis in Nigeria as a food scientist? And if there is food crisis, does it frighten you?
Yes, there is food crisis, or better put, food insecurity.
Okay, what's the difference?
That's why I said better put. We could just be playing with words. But the truth is, for a nation to be food secure, four things must happen.
Yeah.
There must be availability. Okay, there must be, in availability, you're looking at in quantity and in quality. Okay, you're also looking at utilization. Okay, and then you're looking at stability. It's not enough that the food is available. It must be available all through the year. You know, and then when it's available again, your citizens must be eating it in the right quantity and in the right quality. You know, you talked about the 111 becoming 001 or 100. That in itself is one symptom of food insecurity. You know, so We are not there yet.
Because I'm asking, does it worry you?
It does worry me as a food scientist because there are attendant problems to food insecurity. Taking away crime, you know, apart from crime. Because if people are hungry, they will break in and steal food. They may not steal any other thing, but food, you know. But beyond that, the health of the citizen is also challenged seriously. You'll be looking at things like undernutrition. There'll be malnourished children everywhere. You know, adults could even have the reserve, but children don't have it. So that's one major, is a critical area of food insecurity that the nation should look into. How food affects health, the unavailability of food and its attendant effect on the health of the citizens.
Spokesmen of government will want to tell us that we are not into a food crisis. It is that food is available, except that it is costly.
If it's costly, it's unavailable. Can a low-income earner buy that food?
No.
So where's the availability?
A bag of rice is a little over 100,000 now.
If you divide it by 30, sir, one bowl is how much?
That's about 3 point something naira.
So a man or woman that earns 15,000 naira in a month,
or even scale it up to 30, must he spend all
on rice?
Rice. So there is food crisis in our country. How do you food scientists intervene?
At this point now, we need to begin to look into alternatives. Speaking before the break, we're talking about lizard, money, we talked about best care, and you mentioned something very crucial. You said psychology. We have to start doing the reverse psychology now, taking our minds back to all these alternatives that urbanization has taken away from us. You know, it now becomes something that can't be heard of, that you're eating termites as meal. No. And I'm beginning to have, you know, this moment where we may have to start looking at presentation. I did a study where we included termites in cookies because Gen Zs, Gen Alphas may never imagine themselves, you serve them a dish and give them spoon and it's termites in it. No, they won't take that. But if you include the termites in their cookies, it becomes acceptable. So these are alternatives. These are ways where food scientists can intervene.
Food scientists, I was going to ask, how do we intervene?
Yeah, these are ways of intervention that, okay, all those foods that the society seems to frown on, we can bring them back, but in socially acceptable forms.
Now, how do you as scientists, food scientists, collaborate? Because it takes time for you can't do it on your own, in your own small corner.
Yes, no, we can't.
Because we have gotten to a level and time in this country that must, and then you must push it, not just these big companies you must be in collaboration with them, and then they push it to the world. Say, give it, come to professionals, they design some the content. Gen Zs Gen Zs believe in taste.
Taste and appearance is very germane to them. It's very, 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 very important. And so, yes, I agree with you that we must synergize with the companies. There's something called multidisciplinary collaborations. We collaborate even beyond the shores of Nigeria with people that have access to possibly better facilities or, you know, discoveries, and then we bring our own aspect into it. That collaboration is imminent, more than ever before now, because we want to start coming up with newer forms of food using available resources.
We still do plantation agriculture. We do this, people farm. What in your mind, as a researcher, you must have done one or two things closer. If you have not done, the question is, what has caused the crisis in the insecurity, to borrow your language, in food?
The causes of food insecurity are a lot. There are a lot. Number one is this economic situation. We also have weather. These days, the weather trajectory has changed. We have also, in weather, you also have cultural practices, farming practices, you know. We also have the insecurity that is not There's no food insecurity. The threat to life.
Yeah, it's insecurity.
Yeah,
too.
but it's not food, right?
Yeah, it's not food. But it leads to
But it leads to
shortage.
food because farmers can't go to their farms,
Yeah.
or their farms are plundered by animals, you know, and so there's shortage.
Yeah.
We have disease infestation too. All these things, and if our government are not paying proper attention, it will lead to food shortage. There are times that we have seasonal glut. Now you don't even know when the food is in season because certain things have hindered the availability of that food.
Yeah. For instance, this year, between July, August, and September, farmers were expecting rains. Rains didn't come.
So there was no glut of anything, you know, because of the rains, you know, and that's the climatic conditions, or that's the effect of climate change on us too.
Okay.
You know, so
food processing or processed food appears to have taken over all over the world. The white men brought it. We used to, in those days when you were young, you knew what kind of food mama and papa gave you. Everything was raw. Today, food processing has taken over. It has its good and bad points. Tell me the challenge that food processing is posing today.
White men did not bring food processing.
Well,
we've been processing food.
Yeah, you are right.
Ages.
You are right. Yes, but this
they brought some modifications. Yes,
okay.
They brought some modifications. They brought some mechanizations into it. You know, the most traditional form of food processing is salting. You know, now this is where processing and preservation clashes. You know, so where preservation is a form of processing. You know, and for instance, last night, based on the conversation, I discovered that Dodo Ikiri was an accidental innovation because of processing. You know, so yes, I agree that along the line, Westerners have brought, I rather call it ultra processing. That is, you know, over processing. But without food conversion, we can't be where we are. You can't have Gary by putting cassava in water. Something has to give. There has to be some form of conversion. That's food processing. But I also, at the same time, also agree with you that some foods have become over-processed. And that becomes a danger in itself. But you see, economics is a law of demand and supply, sir. Westernization and urbanization, or the fast-evolving developments that we see all around us. People want to eat on the go.
Yeah.
So I have a customer that wants to eat on the go. I want to make money. I will provide for you the food that you need to eat on the go.
In spite of what it could challenge you in future.
So the question is, what are these challenges? What are these dangers? And then can we minimize them? There's some, like I said, food processing is germane. It's important. But you now want to be careful that you do not eat certain over-processed foods or the nature of processed foods you're looking for. Junks. Foods high in sugar and salt. You know, you the consumer, you know that what you're eating is high in sugar and salt. You don't want too much of that in your body system. But the fast-paced life that we live, the demands of job and all of that makes people to go for these things. I just feel that people should, as much as possible, let's stay green. As much as possible, let's stay natural. But at the same time, there are certain foods that must be processed for us to eat it. If you're going to put salt in your food, you can't go to the sea and take a cup of seawater and have that as your salt, right? Yeah. But at the same time, salt is available. How much of it do you use? Sugar is available. How much of it do you use? Palm oil is available. These are things that affect the palatability of food. We can't cancel them, but we can regulate the consumption so that the far-reaching effects are minimized.
Time is not very much on our side, but I can't let you go without asking or requesting you to tell me, vicariously the listener, the viewer, about genetically modified foods. What are they a threat to us, especially in developing nations? What are they in the first place, and what?
That topic is a very huge one.
I don't want just
can't
give me
exhaust it.
Specifics.
But from the word genetically modified foods, these are foods that have their DNAs altered for specific reasons. Anyway, you know,
When do they have the DNA is altered? When? Before plantation or what?
Definitely is during planting or before planting, the seed crop.
Yeah.
And there are reasons for it. For instance, one major reason why genetic modification comes in could be the desire to have disease resistance crops.
Okay.
If a particular crop has been known to be prone to this particular disease, you find
solution.
a way of solving that problem by altering. It could be just cutting away a part of its DNA or adding that resistance. You know, it's more it's biotechnological, right? But at the end of the day, so you eventually have a product that is now resistant to that disease. Also, you could have genetic modification in terms of productivity, enhanced productivity. You want to have more volume. All right. But there are regulations to these things. The question is, are people obeying? Are planters obeying? Are processors obeying? But genetically modified foods are not in itself dangerous.
Oh.
It is how we go about it.
The fear has been, oh, don't eat it. We
you are
want
eating a lot of it. Are you not eating broiler? You're eating broiler, you're eating noila. These are genetically modified organisms, you know. So not all of them will be harmful. I don't want to talk in absolute
when you talk about
sense.
Animals, yes, animals, but
so why
plants.
are you excusing animals and not excusing plants?
I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
It's knowledge. It's knowledge. Most times our fears could be based on ignorance or not having enough knowledge about certain things. But as food scientists, we have been informed that genetic modification is supposed to be a solution to a problem. It's not supposed to be a money-making venture.
Has it now become, rather than solution, has it become a problem?
It might have been hijacked. I don't want to speak, you know, but the intent, the very essence of it was to solve problems, to make life easier. For instance, as food processors, there are certain, you pick a plant like tomato. Tomato means different things to a food scientist. So a food scientist that wants tomato juice, there is a kind of tomato you want. There are certain constituents that tomato must have, a particular level of moisture, a particular level of solids.
Right.
But the maker of tomato paste is the other way around.
Money.
No, not money. So you want less moisture, more solid. To the juicer, you want more moisture, less solid. So yes, at some point you may need to make alterations so that you get what you want. And that's where modification comes in. You know, where you now alter the DNA traits of the parent plant, and then it gives birth to all of that. So
today we have myths surrounding some foods.
Yeah.
So many myths. What is responsible for this? And how realistic are the myths?
Many myths are born out of possibly you know, in our culture, possibly to preserve the culture or to prevent bad habits, so to speak. But many things are incorrect. For instance, you tell a pregnant woman not to eat snails. Why?
Culturally based. But scientifically, is there any proof?
It's the eldest or one of the eldest. You know,
yeah, but this is a cultural. For instance, people from Benue State, they're not likely to eat snails.
Okay.
While the man from Ikire or Oshogbo or Ibadan will enjoy snails. So it's a cultural thing.
Yes.
So it is up to you, specialists, professionals,
to make information available. Yes, I agree.
Can we also have even snail flavor and things like that? Put it in, I don't know. The idea just came to me. If it is that good, yes, the pregnant woman needs it, but the culture doesn't allow her. She lives in Benue State. So pump something in and...
but you cannot give her food and not let her know she's eating snail or something that has snail in it.
Except something like pork, which is religious.
All right. So it's,
anything else?
It's left to the end users, sir. If I know that snail is beneficial to my health, it's rich in iron, and I need it, I have to find a way of eating it. I would not tell you that I ate it.
How does he know? or he or she know.
Yes.
It is your professionals, you professionals rather, who must, I said
give
it,
the information.
give the information and collaborate with the big organizations
yes, I remember,
push this out.
Yes, so that's where, again, that's another example of collaboration with the nutritionist. So, you know, sometimes the nutritionists are closer to these end users than we are.
Yeah.
And so we send information out during clinics, during engagements. They give this information out, telling them how nutritious this food. It's left to the individual to come out of the myth, you know, that this food is dangerous. Or processed foods. Not all processed foods are bad, you know. Processed foods are a means of convenience.
Between convenience and the harm, that you scientists know, where would you situate the end user between convenience and the possible likely harm that it?
But what are these possible likely harms?
I don't know. You as
a
the scientist.
I feel that some harms may come in when we overdo, when we overdo things, or when we make outrageous demands, or when producers are dishonest. And that's not the fault of the food scientist. I've given you a formula. What you do with the formula as the manufacturer now is yours. You know, so, but at the same time, thank God for modernization. Consumers can be aware of what they are eating. They must be sensitive to what they are eating. Food processing in itself does not have any harm. But along the line, many things have been tweaked, many things, you know, but at the end of the day, ask yourself, do you really need it? This sugar that you take, do you really need it? And so it's your choice to choose convenience or harm.
When you choose convenience as a young person, when you grow old, it becomes a problem.
That's a myth, sir.
It's a myth?
Yes.
Okay. Well, but you have just told me you want to choose between convenience and your health.
You can still minimize it. For instance, convenience, Gary is convenience.
Yes. But how much sugar do you put into it?
Do you have to put sugar in the Gary?
Some people have gotten to the level that without sugar, they cannot take Gary.
That's why I said we also have to
convenience, the harm. Anyway, the topic, the conversation cannot end in this studio. I'd like to appreciate you for coming, Dr. Adedayo Adeboye, Head of Department Food Science and Technology, Osun State University. It's been a very interesting conversation, and as I did mention it from the beginning, food is a leveler. It touches everybody. No matter who, the presidents eat food, kings eat it, scientists eat, and we, the poor masses, we all eat it. I hope you got something very informative about what to do and what not to do. Most importantly, it made us understand that going into extra time is not necessary in circumstances like this. You have to be moderate in everything you take. I'm Adedayo Adeboye. I thank you for watching, and hopefully next week we'll bring you another guest. Madam, thank you for finding time at a short notice to come.
Sir. Thank you.
That has been our package. We see you next week.
ọ̀kan òjọ̀kan ní àwọn oúnjẹ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá bí wọ́n ti wuyì lójú bẹ́ẹ̀ ni wọ́n sì kún fún adùn àti ìtẹ́lọ́rùn tí kò lẹ́gbẹ́ pàápàá nígbà tí ọbẹ̀ tó dọ́ṣọ̀ pẹ̀lú ẹran oríṣiríṣi àti àwọn ẹja bá ń ṣe alábàárìn àwọn oúnjẹ òkèlè bíi ẹ̀bà àbí iyán funfun lẹ́lẹ́. Ẹ ó máa gbọ́ àwọn ìpèdè bíi iyán lóúnjẹ, ọkà lóògùn, àìrí rárá là ń jẹ̀kọ, kẹnu ó mọ̀dílẹ̀ ní ti gúgúrú. Ètò akọ́mọlédè ló ń dé sójú ìwòran yín láti iléeṣẹ́ móhùnmáwòrán WSTV ìkànnì 150 channel 190 lórí StarTimes. Yorùbá dùn púpọ̀, Yorùbá ò lè kú, Yorùbá ò lè parun, tiwa làṣà, tiwa lèdè, tiwa nìṣẹ̀ṣe akọ́mọlédè. Ìlú Abẹ́òkúta gẹ́gẹ́ bí orúkọ rẹ̀, ìlú tí a tẹ̀dó sábẹ́ Olúmọ. Ó jẹ́ ibùgbé àwọn ẹ̀yà Ẹ̀gbá àti Òwu tó jìjàǹgbara lọ́wọ́ Aláàfin Ọ̀yọ́ àtijọ́. Láàrin ọdún 1775 sí 1780 ni akọni Lísàbí Àgbòǹgbò Àkàlà léwájú wọn láti dáwọ́ sísan ìṣákọ́lẹ̀ fún Aláàfin dúró. Ìdí nìyí tí àwọn ọmọ Abẹ́òkúta ṣe ń pe ara wọn ní ọmọ Ẹ̀gbá mọ Lísàbí Àgbòǹgbò Àkàlà. Ìlú Abẹ́òkúta jẹ́ ìlú àwọn ọ̀làjú àti aláfẹ́. Ọ̀pọ̀ àwọn òyìnbó aláwọ̀ funfun ló fi bẹ̀ ṣe ìlú, pàápàá lásìkò ìjọba amúnisìn. Ṣọ́ọ̀ṣì àkọ́kọ́ nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà ní St. Peters tó wà ní Aké. Ilé ìwòsàn àkọ́kọ́ nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà Sacred Heart Hospital ìlú Abẹ́òkúta ló wà. Aláké lorúkọ oyè ọba ìlú Ẹ̀gbá. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni Òkè Olúmọ wà níbùdó tó tẹ́jú láti lè fi rí gbogbo ìlú Abẹ́òkúta ní orí òkè náà. Àwọn ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n àti onímọ̀ púpọ̀ ló jẹ́ ọmọ bíbí ìlú Abẹ́òkúta. Àwọn bíi ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Wọlé Ṣóyínká, ọ̀jìnmí akọni obìnrin ní Fúnmiláyọ̀ Ransom Kuti àtọ̀pọ̀ àwọn míì. Iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ àti àdìrẹ níṣẹ́ tó gbayì nílùú Abẹ́òkúta. Ẹ̀gbá.
Atótó arére.
Kò ṣeé má gbọ́ ìròyìn. Àbújá ni olú ìlú orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́. Ọjọ́ 12 oṣù 12 ọdún 1991 ni wọ́n gbé ibùjókòó agbára Nàìjíríà kúrò nílùú Èkó lọ sílùú Àbújá lásìkò ìṣèjọba ológun ọ̀gágun fẹ̀yìntì Ibrahim Babangida. Ìlú Àbújá ní ìlú kẹjọ tí èrò pọ̀ sí jùlọ nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà, ó sì jẹ́ ìlú olódi tó wà ní àárín gbùngbùn. Gbogbo àwọn iléeṣẹ́ àti àjọ ìjọba kọ̀ọ̀kan ló ní olú ọ́fíìsì wọn nílùú Àbújá, gẹ́gẹ́ bó ṣe jẹ́ pé ibẹ̀ gan ní ibùjókòó agbára ìṣàkóso ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Lọ́dún 2003 ni àjọ Commonwealth gbé ìpàdé wọn wá síbẹ̀. Bẹ́ẹ̀ sì ni àjọ olókoòwò nílẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ ṣe lọ́dún 2014. Kódà lọ́dún 2016 àjọ tó ń rí sí ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn ọmọdé ìyẹn UNESCO gbà á gẹ́gẹ́ bí ibùdó ìkẹ́kọ̀ọ́ wọn. Díẹ̀ lára àwọn ibùdó tó gbajúgbajà nílùú Àbújá ni àpáta agbára Aso Rock, ilé aṣòfin àpapọ̀, ilé aṣojúṣòfin ilẹ̀ yìí, àpáta Zuma Rock, Millennium Park, báńkì àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà CBN, mọ́ṣáláṣí àpapọ̀ àti ibùdó ilé ìjọsìn àpapọ̀ àwọn kìrìsìtẹ́nì. Ẹkùn ìdìbò 6 ló wà nílùú Àbújá: Abaji, Buhari, Gwagwalada, Kuje, Kwali àti Abuja Municipal. Kílìṣì tó jẹ́ ohun ìpanu tí wọ́n fi ẹran pèsè ló jẹ́ oúnjẹ tó wọ́pọ̀ tí gbogbo èèyàn sì nífẹ̀ẹ́ sí nílùú Àbújá. Ó jẹ́ ibùdó ìsinmi fún ọ̀pọ̀ àwọn arìnrìn-àjò láti ẹkùn kọ̀ọ̀kan nílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà nítorí pé àárín gbùngbùn ló wà. Ìlú Àbújá rèé o, ibùdó agbára ìṣàkóso ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà, ògo ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀.